Well, I am so excited to introduce to you all our next panel. We have Dominik, Holly, Jason, and Kosala, who will be talking to us about NFTs, will be the newcomers ticket to enter Web3. Yes, they will be indeed. Thank you. Give them a round of applause.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Oh, you're sitting on the microphone.
Let's sit on the mic. All right, thank you, everyone. Web3, newcomers ticket to NFTs is the newcomers ticket to, let me get that right. This topic, when we first got the title, was confusing to me, and I looked at it this way. I said, let me go back to Web 2.0. And I said, what was the price of admission for Web 2.0? For us, for users, it was, we provided the content. But really what we gave up was our data, right? Now that's a big difference from Web 3. So now when I'm thinking about Web 3, so my first question for all of you is, NFTs are the ticket, but how is it going to be different? I wanted to start with Dominik because you describe yourself as a guy, your company's like Web 2.5. So I think it's a great place to start with you on this.
Yes, thank you very much. So what we basically are doing is bringing new people into Web 3, but with the difference that we are having kind of the approach from Web 2, going to Web 3, bringing the people to Web 3 via education, and we're calling it Web 2.5. So we are selling NFTs to people who are interested in NFTs because of all these marketing stuffs, but they don't even know that they are using blockchain, they don't need coins and so on. So in the end, they own NFTs, but they don't know it in the first place.
How do they not know it? Is it the UX? Like, how does a user not know they're actually on chain?
Yeah, so basically, we are as an NFT marketplace. We're just bringing them, we're just selling them JPEGs with brands and the whole ecosystem. And they buy it with credit card, and later on, they're getting emails and they're getting all this educational content, and then we teach them simply, hey, you have an NFT and you can withdraw it to your wallet. Oh, what is a wallet? How do you use it? And how do you trade it? And so on.
Got it. And talk about, because you're like an original in it. I mean, you guys go way, way back, right? I mean, to like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, like 3 weeks ago. More like 3 days ago. Just kidding. Yeah, so we are, my name is Kosala, Hemachandra, CEO and founder of My Ether Wallet. So yeah, we started right after Ethereum mainnet launch. So we go all the way back to 2015 August. So we've seen everything from ICOs to NFTs to where we are right now. So we are tackling that exact same problem of onboarding users into the wallet space because since our product is a wallet interface, so our goal is to display properly the assets that they own, how to transfer them, how to make use of them, or what's the utility side of the assets that they have, yield farming and all that. So, and then NFTs plays a huge role. We are starting to see that just because of NFTs and then these big brands starting to create their own NFTs, people are getting into the blockchain or Ethereum ecosystem to figure out what are NFTs and how to have them in their wallet or how to interact with them, where to buy them, and our process is to make it simple as much as possible and make it, again, I think everyone's going for that seamless process of owning NFTs without them knowing which blockchain the NFT is on, or what happens if I have to switch blockchains and all that. So yeah, our goal is to hit that point of being seamless as well.
Right, and so you're a brand expert. Tell us about how you see brands interacting in Web3.
So I think presenting them with the least amount of friction is going to be where all the success really is. And I think looking at explaining to brands it's full circle that Web3 can't live without Web2 and vice versa. I think also that ushering them in such a way that they realize the phygital and the event and the experience that they get in Web2, say IRL, like we're here at a conference, right, is as important as bringing them into Web3 in a comfortable way, taking their brand there and showing them other ways they can delight their customers, right? Create fandom, create loyalty, and then bring them back into Web 2. I actually think it's very circular. I think it needs to be, Jody Rich from NFT.NYC at the keynote talked about twinning, and I think it's really important to have that phygital and that digital, and probably will be the most comfortable for brands in the end.
But it's so different, right? Like, I don't know who wants to take this question, but when you think about the differences between Web 2 and Web 3, I mean, yes, you have to go circular, but I think it's very difficult for the consumer, particularly if you're new to Web 3, right? Like, doesn't it take, I think it takes to some degree almost like a reprogramming of your brain of like how things work on chain, and this every notion of how you interact is different. Don't you think for a consumer that it's confusing, and how do you get around that?
Well, what I would say is that, again, it's the least amount of friction. I think any NFT that somebody buys, companies have to make it available to them on the blockchain using cryptocurrency, but they also have to make it available to them by going through their email address and using their credit card. 98% of the world is not engaged in this, and brands are worried about what their place is, and they don't want to accept crypto. So I think it has to be a blend, and that's why I'm saying like Web 2 and Web 3 have to play nice in the sandbox. I think that's where they're going to be the most successful.
And Dominik, do you see that as well? Because you're interacting in both these spaces almost simultaneously.
Yeah, well, I'm talking to many, especially European brands, and I'm talking about huge brands in Europe. They all want to come into the NFT market, and they all want to use NFTs, especially because NFTs are kind of the first real use case for blockchain besides the whole financial topic. And these brands, they want to use NFTs mainly as merch, kind of digital merch with marketing, and to combine this whole stuff. And we are teaching them with the brand leaders and the board members who have to approve that NFTs are much more than the current hype. And we're trying to explain to them how important it is to give utility to these NFTs and long-time value. And once we convince them, then we're starting onboarding them into the whole topic, into the whole language of NFTs. So maybe one short story from a conversation some weeks ago. So one huge German publisher, they approached us and said, yeah, we want to do digital merchandise as NFTs. And we told them, okay, no problem, we can make a drop on our launchpad. And they said, okay, what is a drop? What is a launchpad? And there is no translation for drop or launchpad.
Not even in German.
Not even in German.
You could send them to my podcast.
I'll do that.
By the way, what is your podcast? Because I think everyone should check it out. I know it, but I want you to talk about it because I'm a subscriber.
Thank you. So my show is Culture Factor, and it's the conversations around NFTs and Web3 technology. That's really for like the 98% of the world that doesn't talk like we do. So feel free to send your friends and family that way when you're like tongue-tied and can't figure out how to explain to them about a drop or what an NFT is, right? Thank you.
Right. And Kosala, when people come to the wallet, do you find that now there's more with what's happening in the crypto markets when it comes to NFTs? You know, are they there for the utility, for the art, or are they just now panicked because of the price?
Very good question. But I would like to take us like slightly step back and then talk about Web 2 and Web 3 from a technical standpoint. When it comes to Web 3, I think the main advantage is it's decentralized web. So not one person is controlling the NFT. So like, for example, once you buy it, once you mint it, it's yours forever, like unless you sell it, unless you transfer it. So I think we should never forget about that important side of NFT as well. And yeah, to answer your question, we've been going through like at least 4 to 5 different cycles of up and down, price going up and down. And it's like at this point, whenever someone's like, oh my gosh, Ethereum's crashing, are you guys okay? I'm like, we've been through this like 5 times. It's fine. It's gonna be okay. It's time. Right now is the time to focus on actually building things. And I'm 100% sure like people, even like NFT space or like a blockchain space in general, this will be the perfect time to filter out all the weeds and then work on real products that matter, and then real products that can carry on 5 years from now instead of like just dying off like in 6 months from now.
That is also definition from an unlevered business entity, which is very smart to not use leverage with your crypto, right? Yeah.
But what do you think? How can we bring people into the NFT and via Web3?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. So I can tell you from me what I've been doing with that. I run an NFT investment fund called Mint Capital, and my investors couldn't explain to you the blockchain if you paid them 25 ETH to do so. So then after we launched Mint Capital, we launched the Metaverse Institute, which is only about education. It doesn't back a certain currency, a certain chain, just purely education. That's launching in, I think, 10 days from now. Our first vertical comes out. I think this idea of educating people in a smart and thoughtful way is really important. I don't know about many of you in the room. I learned about Web3 through YouTube videos, and half of them were shilling some stupid token. And you had to sort of filter out like the bullshit. And it's hard to do that, I think, when you're new. So that's why we created the Metaverse Institute just for education. I think education is a huge component of this. I think the more people learn, the faster that they'll integrate into Web3 in a smart way.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. And I think also that's what your podcast is about too. I think there's a lot of education that goes on there.
Yeah, it's definitely education. I invite a lot of different people onto the show, and I'm really clear that it's okay to talk to me like I'm 10 years old. Because I think we need to distill down all of the concepts, but they have to be without all of the vernacular, right? Like we have a lot of terms that we use that have become natural for us, and it's like sitting in a room with VCs. They have their language. Right. You sit in a room with us, we have our language. So yeah, I think education is really key in trying to make it as simple as possible, so that you don't have to go to YouTube University to learn.
Exactly.
Yeah, to add to what Holly mentioned, education is definitely the key, and then that's also why my Ether Wallet is like continuously educating our users at the same time. So we have the Mutopia.com, which is simplifying the most complicated technical information to everyday user. Because in my opinion, if we are going for mass adoption, we have to make like owning NFTs, owning tokens, it should be seamless as possible, make it seamless as possible. And then it should be simple as like sending a Venmo from person A to person B, and then you should not even worry about what blockchain you're on, what wallet you're using, and that's, in my opinion, that's the only way to have mass adoption.
Wait, I have a question on that though.
Yeah.
Do you think that there is sort of this people who are new to Web3 or people who don't follow it as much as everyone in the room, when they see the headlines in the news the last month or so, do they conflate the price action in crypto with the blockchain itself and think, oh, well, the blockchain is crashing?
They do. They 100% do.
They do.
So
yeah.
whenever like they see, oh, the crypto's crashing, or something's happening, or like the volume is going down, they generalize it by a lot and then say, oh, like blockchain technology itself is going downhill, which is never the truth. Blockchain itself is an amazing technology, like invented since Bitcoin time, right? And then everyone is using it, and NFT is built on top of it. So it's just, you can think of it as the architecture, right? Just because like Amazon's stock prices goes down, it doesn't mean all the servers in the world goes down. So you have to always like take a step back and then understand the fact that we are building the technology, not the price, and then price follows the technology. So as long as like we have that in mind, and then we are also building for the future. The NFTs, it's really popular now, but at the same time we have to think about 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, I would like to see like multi-million-dollar NFTs everywhere, or like millions of NFTs of little things. So in order for that to happen, we cannot, get shaded by like the price action.
But you also mean like real world cases like deed recordings, title and homes, movie
Exactly.
tickets, airplane tickets, right? Like the use cases just go on and on and on, and that's where we're going, right?
Yeah, 100%. So we definitely have to, instead of trying to create value out of thin air, I think we should also at the same time think about how to create tokens or like non-fungible NFTs out of existing valued items, like such as titles, pink slips, things like that. Dominik.
That's exactly what I wanted to bring up. One thing we are doing to bring people into NFTs and also into Web3 is by gapping the physical world with the digital world. So if you have an NFT and you have only the JPEG, for many people, for many no-coiners especially, an NFT is just JPEG or a digital picture. But especially in the transmission phase, if you provide them some real-life utility, then you can enforce them to somehow get knowledge of the topic. So for example, NFTs with a phygital or with some real-life stuff you can claim or get, as long, for example, diesel NFTs. You can basically, you can wear these shoes or Adidas, you can wear these tracksuits in the metaverse, but it's not finished yet, so you can't do it right now. But the moment you can claim something and use it in the real world, suddenly it's getting value, and suddenly it has something, you can touch it. It's basically physical, yeah.
I'd like to add on to that. I think it's important also for brands to, The magic is in the utility, and I don't disagree with that. And I think having a roadmap is a smart thing, especially for brands. But I think at the same time, they have to make sure that they can deliver on that, because nothing is going to piss off your customer more than if you promise them something in your roadmap and then it doesn't come to fruition. So I think sometimes dialing back and saying less about what's coming down the pike and then surprising, I think it's better to over-deliver than to really aggravate people. And I think the flip side of that is the one-of-one artist, which is the complete opposite, that is creating art for art's sake. And I think there needs to be that divide where maybe they don't have to provide utility of any sort, that the art is for the intrinsic value of somebody buying it, and maybe they get to put that up on their wall. And Jason, I'd like to ask you about that, because I think you experienced that when you launched your brother's artwork, and that's, you're starting as a one-of-one artist. Could you share with us what that experience was like and how it worked for him?
Well, we moved him into Web3. My brother was selling stuff on Etsy for $45 a pop, and now his stuff sells out at 5 ETH plus in some cases on Foundation. He has a waiting list for work whenever he releases now, and going higher and higher very quickly. For those who want to follow him, you can look him up at Corey Haber on Foundation. But it's interesting, you can take someone on chain who was in Web 2, sharing stuff on social media, getting a few likes here and there, to just exploding in Web 3, because he's just exposed to a different audience. And generative art is obviously having a moment now, or a resurgence now, thanks to the blockchain. And it's exciting to see, not just for Corey's work, but also so many other generative artists are really thriving right now, whereas before a lot of them were struggling. The Snowfro who did Chromie Squiggle I think he was selling tiles before launching Art Block. So it's a different world now for those who take advantage of Web3.
But in your opinion, do you think it's a necessity for him to have a utility on his art or a roadmap, or do you think it could be just about the artistry and the creative process?
For fine art, it can be just about the artistry. He also has physical components to his work. So when you buy the NFT, you can also get the physical as well. But if you're trading in fine art, you can actually not have like a utility like you would in a lot of PFP projects, because the art itself has intrinsic value.
Right.
If the artist has a collector base that's well known, that's well received, he's well reviewed, he or she's well reviewed. So, those things are a little different in fine art.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, since we're in the last 2 minutes of our talk and our panel, I would like to invite you all, especially the ones who who would be interested in NFTs but don't have knowledge about coins and blockchain and so on, to join our marketplace, tokehappy.com, and that's it from my side.
To add on to what Dominik said, not right now, but like before, about utility side of things, like I'm starting to see a trend where people are literally selling, like for example, NFT is the sword you have to buy in order to play a game that might come out in 3 years. So in my head, I'm going, that's the reverse approach. That's not the right approach to handle this situation. Even like, just look at a regular game, right? Like you usually get a trial period. You play for a couple of hours before you even buy the game. So instead, why do we make people buy something before they even get access to the game? So we should change this mentality. So like, it's really hard for someone to be like, oh, what if I don't like the game? Can I still like sell the sword, or will there be someone to buy the sword, or will this game ever come out? Things like that. It's like, it's something to think about when creating NFTs as well.
Great. And people can find you at?
Well, Instagram at Holly E. Shannon, Twitter at Holly Shannon _. But I'd love it if you followed my show, Culture Factor, and maybe share it with somebody who's asking you a lot of questions that you can't answer for them. Hopefully I can help some people on the journey. And this is really great. Thank you all for being here, and I thank NFT.NYC for the honor. This is really great.
And you can look me up at Jason Haber on Twitter. I'd love to continue the conversation if anyone has any further thoughts. And thank you for being an awesome audience. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.